Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us this morning. We're doing a Title V refresher. Most of you may know a lot about the Title V grant, but we thought with some new people, it might be helpful to have a little bit of an update, refresher, kind of bring some things into light about the grant. And I see we still have some people that are joining us, but it is after 10 o'clock and I want to honor everyone's time. I'm Brenda Considine. I am the Title I branch manager, and that does include Title V in under our branch. I do have some colleagues joining me this morning. David Malante is here with us. And David, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm David Malante, the Assistant Director in the Division of School and Program Improvement, and that is where Title V is located.
Thanks, David. And David really provides us a lot of guidance on both Title I Part A and Title V. So he's here to help us. Next, we have Emily Mead. She is a Title I consultant, and she and I took over Title V this summer. And Emily, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
My name's Emily Mead. I'm mainly Title I Part A, but like Brenda said during the summer, been working also with Title V. And we are so glad to have you guys here.
And last but not least, we were fortunate to be able to hire the Title V vacant consultant that we've had for quite some time. And we have Laura Heslop that has joined our team. And Laura, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Laura Heslop. I recently joined the KDE as a program consultant for Title I and Title V, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Hold on just a moment.
Thanks, Laura. So this is a very informal webinar today. We do ask that you could possibly mute just so that we do not get any background noise. We're also going to allow you to, at any point, you can add a question, or if you have something that you want to add in the chat box, please do that. Laura's going to make sure that she monitors that for us. And you can raise your hand if you have a question. So we really want this to be a very informal learning experience for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Come on. So today we're going to cover the Rural Education Achievement Program, and we're going to talk a little bit about those allowable uses of funds. We're going to do a quick overview of REAP funds and then U.S. Department of Ed resources. So Rural Education Achievement Program is under Title V, Part B. It's designed to address unique needs of rural districts that may lack the personnel and resources to compete effectively for federal competitive grants. And it often receives grant allocations in amounts that are too small to be effective in meeting their intended purposes. The portion that we want you to understand about REAP is that there are two formula grant programs. You have your Small Rural School Achievement, which we're going to refer to as SRSA today. And this grant is determined at the USED. It goes directly to the local educational agencies that's the district level. The Rural and Low Income School, which we're going to refer to today as RLIS, is where the department USED makes grants to state and educational agencies, which would be us, KDE, and we administer those subgrants at the district level. So we're going to kind of go into SRSA versus rural and low income schools And I'm going to turn it over to Emily.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is the SRSA eligibility criteria. Of course, you can find these criteria under ESEA section 5211B. So one is the total number of students and average daily attendance at all the schools served by the LEA, Local Education Agency, is fewer than 600. Or each county in which a school served by the LEA is located has a total population density of fewer than 10 people per square mile. And all schools served by the LEA have a locale code designation of 41, 42, or 43 as determined by the Secretary of Education. Or the Secretary of Education has determined based on a demonstration by the LEA and the concurrence of the SEA that the LEA is located in an area defined as rural by the state. We have about 6 independent districts right now that meet the SRSA eligibility criteria. Of course, this may change from year to year. This is the part of the program that US Ed is in charge of, and they contact the districts about being SRSA eligible. Okay.
At Walmart, it was 70. It wasn't 90. Someone told me that said, this isn't 90. And Todd said it had to be 90.
Okay, sorry. We just wanted to tell you a reminder to mute your mics, please. The next slide we're going to go on to is the RLIS eligibility criteria. And you can find this in the ESEA section 5221B. One is 20% or more of children aged 5 to 17 served by the LEA must be from families with incomes below the poverty line as determined by the Small Area Income Poverty Estimate data. And all schools served by the LEA must have a locale code designation of 32, 33, 41, 42, or 43. We have about 115, right now we have 115 districts that qualify for RLIS grant, and this is also subject to change from year to year. This program is funneled through the Department of Education, and we notify you through emails if you are eligible for this grant. So we are going to touch on these locale codes that everyone that we've been talking about. And of course, REAP stands for Rural Education Achievement Program. Basically, these codes are used to see who qualifies for the Title V grant. And again, these are the numbers. And if you go in and look, you'll have distant town, remote town, fringe rural, distant rural, remote rural. So these are part of the locale codes that help US Ed and us determined your eligibility. So the next thing we're going to touch on is dual eligible LEAs. So an LEA eligible for both the SRSA and RLIS is referred to as dual eligible. A dual eligible LEA must choose either the SRSA grant or the RLIS grant. A dual eligible LEA indicates it chooses the SRSA grant by applying for SRSA during the application period. Now, all dual eligible LEAs may exercise the AFWA regardless of which grant they choose. And AFWA stands for Alternative Fund Use Authority. And we're going to talk about this a little bit to give you a little brief overview of what AFWA is. So AFWA allows SRSA eligible LEAs greater flexibility in spending the funds they receive under Title II, Part A, and Title IV, Part A. LEAs may use Title II, Part A, and Title IV, Part A funds to pay for activities under any of the allowable uses for SRSA grant funds. A dual eligible LEA may exercise this authority even if it chooses to participate in the RLIS instead of the SRSA. LEAs do not need to apply for or receive SRSA funds to exercise the alternative use of funds authority. The state must establish a deadline by which an eligible LEA must notify the state of its intent to exercise this authority. If you have any additional questions about AFWA, we ask that you email us for follow-up, and we will do our best that if we can't find the answer, if we don't know the answer, we will definitely find someone who does.
Hey, Emily, how many dual eligible LEAs do we have so far this year?
So far we have 4, and they qualify as both, but they have all chosen to categorize as RLIS.
Okay, thanks.
And the next thing we are going to move on to is uses of funds. These are allowable activities for REAP grants. Now, the districts do not have to do these activities. These are just examples. You don't have to use all of these. A lot of times when we are going through GMAP, we're seeing that you're using your funds for, let's say, Title I, but you're applying it through all your titles. You don't need to do that. If you're spending your money in Title I, then that's the only one that you need to have a narrative for to tell us how you're going to use that. So you don't have to use all these again. You can pick and choose. You can pick 1, you can pick 2, you can pick 3, any of those things. And then the next we're going to move on to is the examples of allowable activities. Now, all of these are examples. Now, if you are in the SRSA grant, you cannot do any parent involvement activities. That is the one thing that is not allowable. So for an example, for Title I, you could do high quality preschool, full day kindergarten to help facilitate, the transition from early learning to elementary. Title II, Part A, obviously you could use it for high quality professional development to help train teachers and principals and other school leaders about different topics in the classroom. Title III, this needs to be supplemental professional development for teachers of ELs as an example. You just need to make sure that these activities are also supplemental. And then Title IV, Part A, an example would be digital resources for students of rural, remote, and underserved areas. I'll get it right here in a minute. And then Title IV, Part B, academic enrichment learning programs, mentoring programs, and tutoring services and things like that. Now that is only allowable for the RSSA also. And then we have parental involvement activities, which again is only allowed for RLIS. Creation, an example would be to create a parent advisory committee to help provide input on different, education topics that are happening in that school.
Okay, before we move on to discuss a little bit about how REAP funds are being spent, do we have any questions? Does anybody need anything? I know we've used a lot of acronyms this morning, so I want to just do a little dipstick to see how we're doing.
We do not have any questions in the chat quite yet.
Okay, all right, thank you, Laura. Well, let's look a little into how REAP districts are using the funding. How are they spending it? And there was a study that was, I think that USED did I'm not quite sure, it wasn't last year, but maybe the year before. And most districts are using their funds to improve or expand access to technology and to provide educator professional development. More than half of the district coordinators reported targeting REAP funds to improve educational outcomes of subgroups of students. And we participated in a federal audit this summer for our grants, our federal grants, and we went back and looked at how districts in Kentucky were using their Title V funding. and what programs were they allocating funding to. And so for the 2020 application, we had 93 districts that used Title I activities, Part A, Title I Part A activities. We had 10 districts that used funding for parent and family engagement. We had 40 districts that focused on professional development and allocating funding towards that. We had 8 districts that used their funding for Title III English learners, and 29 districts that used Title IV Part A allowable activities for their grant. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. To look more into some examples of high quality Title I Part A activities, we talk about preschool, full day kindergarten, recruiting and retention of effective teachers, instructional coaches, using those evidence-based strategies for your content knowledge for English learners, activities that are going to increase access and prepare students for high quality advanced coursework to move them on from high school into that post-secondary credit through advanced placement. School climate interventions, we see some of those PBIS. Equipment, materials, and training to analyze student achievement. And all of these example activities can be used in the SRSA funds and RLIS funds. So those are some Title I activities. Some Title II on how you can support effective instruction, high quality professional development to train teachers and principals on how to use technology in classroom, with parent-family engagement, academic readiness skills, school policy decision-making. Professional development can also be for school leaders on how to integrate academic content, career and technical education, and work-based learning in order to prepare those students for the post-secondary education in the workforce. We do see a lot of activities for standards training. Once the new social studies standards rolled out, we do see money being allocated for that for teachers and principals. How to differentiate teacher performance and use those evaluation results. You can also have programs to support teaching children with disabilities and English learners, and trainings and technical assistance and capacity building for teachers, principals, and other school leaders on assessment systems. Both grants, SRSA and RLIS, can support these Title II activities. And there is an exhaustive list if you want to click the link below that will give you some more examples. For Title III, and this is our language instruction for English learners and immigrant students. Some example activities would be increasing English language proficiency by supplementing effective language instruction educational programs that meet the needs of English learners and demonstrate success in building and increasing that English language proficiency and student academic achievement. Also providing supplemental professional development to classroom teachers that are working with our English learners. And that can also go towards principals and other school leaders and administrators, or even community-based organizational personnel if you're working to improve the instruction and assessment of English learners. And that, of course, is also going to apply to both SRSA and RLIS. And Title III continued would be PD that would be designed to enhance the ability of teachers, principals, and leaders to understand and implement curricula and assessment practices and measures, and instructional strategies for those English learners. The whole point is to increase the language proficiency or increase English learners' subject matter knowledge and teaching teaching skills of such teachers. And both SRSA and RLIS can support those Title III activities. Title IV is supporting students and academic enrichment, and some relevant allowable uses of that funding would be effective use of technology, providing students that are in rural, remote, and underserved areas with digital resources, and building those technological capacity and infrastructures within the schools, carrying out some blended learning projects, delivering rigorous academic courses using technology and using digital learning technologies and assistive technology, and supporting high quality PD for educators on the use of technology and in the areas of STEM. We have seen an increase with the funding being allocated in the areas of technology with the pandemic. And so I do feel like districts are able to use Title V to get the technology in our rural and remote and underserved areas and provide students with the ability to have virtual learning at home. And so that has been a plus for us this year. Emily, you want to cover some, before we get into some resources, Laura, do we have any questions?
We do
regarding-
not have any questions.
Okay, all right. Emily, do you want to take over resources for us?
Yes, ma'am. So we have provided a couple pages of resources, and you can click on each of these web links, and they will take you to the main pages. So the SRSA and the RLIS web pages, these will include access to eligibility spreadsheets, monitoring reports, and there's a lot of other really good resources that are available to use. And then we also have REAP state coordinators. We have that full contact information listed on this link of all the state coordinators if you have any questions for them. And then we also have the U.S. Department of Education COVID-19 homepage. This will include the COVID-19 updates, resources for remote learning, and more. I'm sure everyone's pretty familiar with that one at this time. And then we also have the U.S. Department of Education Funding for Technology homepage. This is also a live link. This provides links to the CARES Act for remote learning, elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund, discretionary grant funding opportunities, funds for connectivity, and different things like that. We also have the Education Stabilization Fund homepage. This is also a live link. This is an emergency fund for states and schools to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19. This includes discretionary grants, Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, and the CARES Act Project Serve.
As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, Emily and I inherited the Title V applications when they became live. And so we are in the process of getting those reviewed and feedback provided back to districts and approval. And we will continue to do that. We've also are getting Laura, our new consultant, as we begin to get some of those applications back to districts. We're letting her sit in with us. We're training her, and eventually she will be your Title V contact. But for now, if you have a question regarding Title V, you may reach out to Emily or myself, and we will include Laura in on those conversations. And just know that we're here to help you. If you are getting ready to revise maybe last year's application, or even you've received approval on this year's application, but you feel like you need to get some of your activities, your needs may have changed, reach out to one of us and we can help you walk through that process. David, do you have anything that you would like to add regarding Title V? I feel like we've shared a lot of information today and hopefully it's been helpful.
I don't have anything at this time to add, Brenda.
Okay. All right. Laura, do we have any questions?
We still do not have any questions.
Okay, that's fine. I know Many of you are very familiar with the Title V grant, but I felt like that it would be nice to just go over some of the components of the grant, and hopefully you have picked up on something that maybe you didn't know before. But if you do have questions, please reach out. We're here to technical assistance and support anytime. And I really appreciate you tuning in on a Friday morning. It is a lovely day, so I hope that you are able to get out there and have a wonderful weekend. And thanks for joining us today.